Later in the morning, the presidential party makes its way to County Wexford. The first stop is Duncanstown, near New Ross, from which his great-grandfather, Patrick Kennedy, had immigrated to the United States 100 years earlier. Then, proposing a toast, he said, "We will drink a cup of tea to all the Kennedys who have gone away and to all who have remained at home." His enthusiasm and obvious enjoyment became so infectious that an official occasion became a happy family reunion, and security measures and the demands of the official program went by the board. And so John Fitzgerald Kennedy had visited the home of his ancestors. The visit may have been brief, but the people of Duncanstown regard it as a signal honor, and the story of that visit would no doubt be retold for decades around the firesides of County Wexford. As a remembrance of his visit, he plants special trees and pats the heads of local children lined up outside the farmyard. The next stop is New Ross, a port town at the mouth of the Barrow River. It was from here that Patrick Kennedy had sailed for the New World 100 years before. In New Ross, he receives a tumultuous welcome. The man whose fame circles the earth is coming to honor them. The great-grandfather who had brought the name and fame of the Kennedys to the United States was one of themselves. Now his great-grandson is returning, not only as a Kennedy, but as president of the greatest nation on earth. And for that reason, they are justly proud. On a platform along the Barrow River, the president accepts the gifts of the townspeople for Mrs. Kennedy. The presentation is made by Andy Minahan, the stately bearded figure who conducted the ceremony in a spirit of humor. Accompanying the president are his two sisters, Mrs. Eunice Schreiber and Mrs. Jean Smith. The visit to New Ross was indeed informal, and here the president was completely relaxed, and his subsequent speech was a highlight of the Wexford visit.
When my great-grandfather left here to become a cooper in East Boston, he carried nothing with him except two things: a strong religious faith and a strong desire for liberty. And I'm glad to say that all of his great-grandchildren have valued that inheritance. Yeah, yeah. If he hadn't left, I'd be working over at the Albatross Company. Or perhaps for John D. Kelly. In any case, we are happy to be back here. About 50 years ago, an Irishman from New Ross traveled down to Washington with his family, and in order to tell his neighbors how well he was doing, he had his picture taken in front of the White House and said, "This is our summer home. Come and see us." Well, it's our home also in the winter, and I hope you will come and see us. Thank you.
Outside City Hall, the enthusiasm of the crowd is beyond restraint, and even the security guards have difficulty clearing a path for the president. when the president observed an Irish policeman using a little force on an over-enthusiastic admirer, he was heard to say, "Don't do that. That man is a good friend of mine." Finally, the motorcade gets underway. It was here that an ardent admirer held onto the president's hand too long as the car moved forward, and the president fell headlong into the back seat. But fortunately, he was none the worse of the experience.
If the day was clear enough, and if you went down to the bay and you looked west, and your sight was good enough, you would see Boston, Massachusetts. And if you did, you'd see down working on the docks there some Dohertys and Flahertys and Ryans and cousins of yours who have gone to Boston and made good. I wonder if you could perhaps let me know how many of you here have a relative in America who you'd admit to, if you'd hold up your hand. You send us home covered with gifts, which we can barely carry, but most of all, you send us home with the warmest memories of you and of your country. So I must say that though other days may not be so bright as we look towards the future, that the brightest days will continue to be those in which we visited you here in Ireland. If you ever come to America, come to Washington, and tell them, if they wonder who you are at the gate, that you come from Galway. The word will be out, and when you do, it'll be Céith Míle Fáilte, which means in Gaelic 100,000 welcomes.
The visit to Galway is over. At Salt Hill, his helicopter is ready and waiting. And John Fitzgerald Kennedy leaves behind old friends with fresh memories. For it is certain that no visitor to Ireland left behind such an indelible impression as did this youthful statesman with the magnetic personality. As he leaves, a fishing fleet lines the waters of Galway Bay as a tribute to the man who had graced their shore and who in turn had stolen their hearts away. In his farewell speech, he says, "This is not the land of my birth, but it is a land for which I hold the greatest affection. The wonderful hospitality I have been showered with has indeed made me feel that I had come home. From the bottom of my heart, I say, God bless Ireland." A group of Irish folk singers whom he had heard earlier have composed a special song in his honor. He listens in silence with bent head. As he leaves, we recall the words of the Boston poet John Boyle O'Reilly and feel they express the sentiments of the Irish people. Thank God for one dear friend. with face still radiant, with the light of truth, whose love comes laden with the scent of youth. Then he went as he came, like a whisper in the dawn. But Ireland and her people were the richer for the visit of John Fitzgerald Kennedy.